Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a pretty dark kids show. We've seen people lose their eyes, get trapped in soul-level torture duels, wager their souls in card games, and get banished to a realm of eternal suffering. For an 8-year-old, that's a pretty intense experience. But one arc that doesn't get enough credit for how dark it really was is Season 4's Waking of the Dragons. On the surface, it feels like a typical filler season. Evil group tries to destroy the world, Yugi stops them, and by the next season it's all but forgotten. But I've since changed that opinion. I discovered Season 4 isn't just filler, it's one big, inverted, alchemical ritual. An entire, occult-focused narrative. Yeah, it sounds crazy, but after rewatching, I found the season is essentially one ongoing ritual that slowly unfolds into a warning tale on the dangers of ego worship. So today, let's answer this question. Why is this the darkest Yu-Gi-Oh! Season of all time? It begins like this. A meteor has hit the planet, awakening an ancient evil. In the chaos that follows, Domino City is thrown into turmoil.
There's a mystical elf on your front lawn.
Amidst this, a new evil group, led by this guy, arrives in town. And they're using a powerful magic card to steal people's souls, the Seal of Orichalcos. The card's image is a unicursal hexagram, a symbol most commonly linked to famous SEX magician Aleister Crowley and his religion Thelema. Unlike a regular hexagram made of two overlapping triangles, the unicursal hexagram is drawn in one continuous flow, representing the continuous flow of energy. In alchemy, this symbol expresses the overcoming of dualities and achieving unity or wholeness, a higher level of being. And in the context of a duel, it's as if the duelists are stealing one another's energy until one is completely drained. But to what end? Why collect these souls? That question is answered when the group reveals they're collecting souls with the power of the Orichalcos to awaken the Great Beast, also known as Leviathan. The Leviathan in theology is the beast from the sea, appearing in the Book of Revelation. It represents primordial chaos. But in the show's context, what role does it play? Who is behind the attempt to summon it? The mastermind is Dartz, leader of this soul-stealing group called Doma. Yet his ultimate purpose remains a mystery, until we explore his past. It's explained in Dartz's backstory that he is a 10,000-year-old king who once ruled the ancient city of Atlantis. Yes, that Atlantis. And his story closely mirrors the real-life myth. According to Plato's Critias, Atlantis was an advanced society that fell due to moral corruption. This civilization also possessed a material called orichalcum, a semi-mythical alloy said to be as valuable as gold. But in Dartz's case, orichalcum grants more than just monetary value. It's a mythical material bestowing knowledge and power to the inhabitants of Atlantis, placing it firmly in the realm of alchemy, where matter is not just matter, it's a gateway of transformation. With such power came corruption, and the society quickly fell into moral decay. Dartz, seeing no way to fix this, allies with the evil god behind Orichalcum, the Leviathan, teaming up to destroy the world and cleanse it of its moral corruption. And he gets his wish. Kind of. Atlantis is destroyed, but the world survives until the events of the arc. This backstory reveals Dartz's motivation and the alchemical ritual he's undertaking. But before we dive deeper, it might help to briefly explain alchemy and its main purpose here. In alchemy, the goal is to perform what's known as the Great Work. This is both a physical process, turning crude, pre-mat materia into gold, and a spiritual process, one of overcoming internal conflict and uniting dualities to achieve wholeness. In material terms, the alchemist becomes like purified gold, cleansed of impurities. And given the focus on powerful transformative materials with broader occult symbolism and references, it's clear alchemy is being positioned as central in the plot. But what kind of alchemy is Dartz practicing with the Orichalcos? It's not exactly like he's trying to heal his inner conflict or even help others. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Dartz's aim is what I call the Great Shadow Work. Within alchemy, one key step is ego death, the breaking down of rigid self-boundaries so repressed trauma can surface, be integrated, be healed. But Dartz avoids this inner work. Instead of examining past trauma felt from the moral fall of Atlantis, he inflates his own status to such a high level as a way of avoiding accountability and his own moral decline. After all, he may have been the most corrupt person in all of Atlantis. Not only was he influenced by the Orichalcos like his people, he convened with the evil god behind its power, becoming its pawn and helping its aim to destroy humanity. But by deifying his own ego, Dartz has raised himself above self-critique, and now only projects his own moral failings onto the outer world. This dynamic is visually symbolized throughout the show. Take Dartz's company, Paradios. Its name hints at his goal, the paradise he wants to create in his own image. But the company's insignia tells us even more. It features a unicursal hexagram, a two-headed serpent, and at its center, what looks like a caduceus, a symbol of transformation in alchemy. This is meant to be ironic. The writers appropriate a symbol of inner change for Dartz's superficial outer change. In other words, his transformation is external, not internal. Ego isn't dissolved, it's inflated. Sacrifice isn't self-sacrifice, but sacrificing others to his grandiose ideals. But before Dartz can complete any of this dark ritual, he needs help. And pay attention to who he chooses, because it's quite interesting. Valon, an orphan who saw the one mother figure in his life, a nun, burn in her own church. Raphael, stranded on an island as a child after a shipwreck killed his family. Alistair, he lost his family in a war funded by Kyber's father, fueling his desire to destroy the world and rebuild it weapon-free. Notice the pattern? Each was legitimately hurt by the outer world. Dartz coerced them into thinking the only way to heal is through destruction of what caused that pain. The type of destruction they enact just so happening to align with Dartz's own nihilistic vision. Yet after facing our heroes, each begins to see that Dartz never intended to heal them. He used their pain for his own ends. But this realization comes too late. Dartz moves forward with the final phase of his ritual, summoning the Leviathan. This finally takes place after a 6-part duel with Yugi, where after a long back and forth, Yugi finally gets the job done. And now Dartz faces a problem. To complete the summoning, he needs Yugi's soul. So instead of using Yugi's soul, Dartz chooses his own. This is the end result of Dartz's great work. Or shall we say, shadow work. A giant sea behemoth causing pure destruction. It's an interesting choice. Compare this to the non-inverted great work we see in alchemy, which uses the phoenix as a symbol of final inner change. The phoenix represents not only death of the old self, but resurrection into a unified and glorified state. Instead, the chaotic sea serpent suggests that inner psychic forces and unresolved trauma have come to a violent boiling point. Dartz's merging with the beast is the ultimate projection. He becomes indistinguishable from his trauma. Dartz's original pain stemmed from the moral downfall of his society, but even as he transforms into a grotesque and destructive beast, he still cannot see that the corruption was also within himself. So how does Yami/Yugi solve this mess, with him and everyone else now trapped inside the beast? At this point, it's important to note that Yami has undergone his own transformation. Going back to Yugi's previous duel with Raphael, though Raphael's previous outlook was flawed, in their duel he did recognize and call out the cruel, cold-hearted side of Yami's nature, a side that put others in danger, a side that almost lost those who were most dearest to him. A realization of this side of his nature allowed Yami to grow. And so, while trapped inside the giant beast, he says this: "If you can hear me, focus on the light within your heart. It's the only way to save ourselves." It's a simple line, almost childlike in its sincerity, but spiritually, it's profound. While Dartz projected his pain outward as destruction, the hero turned inward. The light within your heart is the antithesis to the Leviathan. It's the unified self, the internal spark, refusing to be corrupted by the world's darkness. It's not about denying trauma, but redeeming it. What happens next is most people think the Egyptian gods come on in and have epic battle with the Leviathan to save the day. But no. After Yugi's initial internal call to those absorbed by the beast, he doesn't defeat it with the power of the Egyptian gods. He defeats it by calling it into himself. Yeah, it sounds kind of weird. At first I thought they just struggled to find an ending to this whole battle. But then I realized this sounds incredibly familiar, almost very Christ-like. In Christianity, there is a doctrine called the harrowing of hell, where Christ, after crucifixion, descended into the realm of the dead, where he overcame death by his deified human nature. Think about it, Yami has ended up inside the stomach of a giant sea beast. In the Gospels, Jesus tells the Pharisees they will receive the sign of Jonah. Jonah, who spent 3 days inside the belly of the whale, which was a typological symbol of Christ's death and descent into Hades, the realm of the dead. It seems then, the mirroring of this story, i.e. escaping the Leviathan's stomach, is to suggest Yami's transformation is complete. And now, as a unified self, he takes on Dartz's pain and anger into him. Just like how Christ, when he descended into Hades, his nature was opposed to death. Yami, having been transformed by the power of friendship, not divine personhood, the darkness within him now extinguished is able to destroy the darkness within Dartz, since his resurrected state also now fundamentally opposes it. As a conclusion, let's put it this way. This story presents two kinds of transformation. One focused on inner change, the other on outward action, and ends up showing that only the first leads to true change. Yes, it's wrapped up in a cheesy card game anime plot, with some clear flaws, but it touches on a real spiritual truth. We've all seen how when driven by ego we become our worst selves. We become ugly and quick to anger, not too dissimilar to a raging sea beast. But recognizing the world as harsh or even cruel isn't wrong. Your perspective is valid. It is without a doubt a difficult and evil world. But the mistake is seeing evil as something only outside of ourselves. Thanks for watching.